Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Devonne.
Sure
I'm Devonne, and I'm doing something different today. I want to talk to you guys about, what to expect with driving a truck. So, things you may not have known and things you may have known already. So, there's a couple of things on what to expect when you guys start driving a truck. So, let's get into it. So, did you know that with driving a truck, a team driver can average about up to $71,000 a year? Your first year, the statistics say that you can earn up to $66,000 in your first year, and that's what the statistics. But that's not limited, because you can earn up to $100,000 in 1 year driving CDL. Okay, you guys? So just keep that in mind. It just depends on what all you want to do, the kind of money you want to make, the kind of commitment that you want to give in order to make the numbers you want to make. So it just depends on yourself. Okay? So there's a lot of things to remember. So did you know that there is an average of 15 to 20% of American workers who drives CDL trucks, who's in the trucking industry, should I say. 15 to 20% of people driving in the trucking industry. That's a lot of people in the trucking industry. That's awesome. So, when you first start out with driving trucks, they're going to expect you to travel between 2,000 to 3,000 miles per week. So, 2,000 to 3,000 miles per week, that's an average. So, if you look at the bigger picture, the 2,000 to 3,000 miles per week, the bigger picture is going to look like this. So, with that being said, it's going to average out to 125,000 miles per year. So when you start out driving, it seems like a lot, but I guess when you drive, you got to think about when you go to the corner store, is it 1 mile, 2 miles, or 3 miles? You know, those miles add up. So if you think about it, your first year you're going to drive, well, not even your first year, but if you think about it, you're going to drive an average of 125,000 miles per year. So we're going to break that down. You break that down, it's going to break down to 2,500 miles per week. And if you break that down even further, you're going to average out driving about 500 miles per day. So 500 miles per day times 5 days to give you 2,500 miles per week. Doesn't make any sense. But this is where it gets a little difficult. Okay, you guys, because you're only allowed to drive 70 hours in 8 days. So think about it. You're only allowed to drive 70 hours in 8 days. Okay? So with that being said, that's 70 hours in 3 days. You get 122 hours of self-time. Okay? So since you get 122 hours of self-time, if you're looking at it by the year, it turns out there's 300 days per year. 70 hours in 8 days. So you're only going to work all the days in the year. You're only going to work 300 days per year. Okay? So, it gets a little difficult. So, with the 70 hours, you can reach that by working 14 hours a day. But the thing is, with 14 hours a day, you cannot drive no more than 11 hours in a day. And you have to take a 10-hour break. So, if you do the math on that, it says that you can work 14 hours a day, but then it also says that you can only drive 11 hours a day, and you have have to take a 10-hour break. So there's a 3-hour window. So I guess with the 3-hour window that's left, you can either, I don't know if you're waiting at the dock or, getting loaded or unloaded. And there's other factors to think about as well when you start CDL driving. So when you start CDL driving, you are either going to be hauling loads and unloading loads, or
sound right, boy.
Where is it? You're going to be doing drops and hooks. Drops and hooks, or live loads, or unloading. That makes any sense. So there's only 2 types of driving. So there's drops and hooks, where you're going to drop a trailer, hook a trailer, or there's going to be live loading and unloading. So you're either going to be picking up merchandise from customers or taking off merchandise for customers. Okay? So the other factors in CDL driving you have to think about when you're driving is you have to worry about the weather. Okay, guys? So with that being said, if you're going to be doing state-to-state driving, you can drive through some really bad ass weather. Okay, you have to drive through snow, you have to drive through ice, you have to drive through rain. So weather is a big factor to play a part in it. Okay, so you also have to deal with mechanical breakdowns. Now, if you're driving so many miles, you have to make sure that your truck is in the best ability to drive, so you can limit the breakdowns. So you have to be able to deal with mechanical breakdowns. Not only that, but when you're in the mountains, there's going to be dangerous situations. So you have to be able to withstand dangerous situations. Not only that, but there's going to be long time periods of loneliness. So if you're driving state to state, you have to worry about being lonely for a long period. So these are just some things to remember when you want to drive CDL trucks. And remember, guys, I haven't started driving yet, but I'm going to start driving. But these are all the things that I am learning to be able to withstand when I become a CDL driver. So another thing to know before you become a driver is that you got to know how to deal with stress. Okay, so stress is a part of drive. Okay, you guys, so with that being said, you have to deal with a lot of traffic. All you guys know, if you're on the road driving, there's going to be traffic, and there's going to be crashes, and there's going to be long periods where you have to wait in line or wait on the highway, and you got to remember, some truck drivers get paid by the hour, and some truck drivers get paid by the mile. So if you're getting paid by the mile and there's a crash out there, you're wasting time sitting there, you're upset. So you got to learn how to deal with stress. So traffic is a big factor to remember with stress. Not only that, but you got to be able to deal with being able to back into a lot of tight spots. I do know when you go to some docks of loading up or unloading, the space where you have to back into may be very small or very limited. So you have to know how to deal with stress with that. You have to know how to deal with being away from home, you guys. So stress comes in the factor. I know it's good money driving trucks, but if you have a family, that's a big factor to remember, especially if you have kids or small kids. Just being away from home can maybe ruin your relationship. You have to think about your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your wife, your kids, or whatever, etc., etc., etc. So you're going to be away. If you're going to do state-to-state driving, which that's what I'm going to do, you're going to be away from home more than you will be home. So you have to, if you have a family, you have to be able to deal with it. Although myself, I don't have to worry about it because I have 2 dogs and they're little chihuahuas and no children and no family. Well, no husband, no boyfriend. So I think that's why trucking for me would be a good industry for me to get into. Because I don't have that stress part of that job for myself to worry about. So, you have to learn how to be able to manage and cope with all these things, you guys. Truck driving is not easy. I do know that we're doing a lot of research that with truck driving, you're going to be alone in your truck. Okay, so there's 24 hours in a day. You're going to be alone in your truck for more than maybe 20 hours out of each day. Can you deal with being alone? Can you deal with being lonely? You don't want that stress to eat you up. So I recommend you guys think this process out if you really want to drive trucks and learn how to deal with stress. Another thing to remember is communication. So we're out there driving trucks and we're loading and we're unloading. So you got to know how to be able to communicate with all different types of people. You got to communicate with the dispatcher. You got to communicate with service people if your vehicle breaks down. You got to be able to communicate with the customers, definitely with the customers when you're taking in that paperwork or receiving paperwork. You got to know how to be able to talk to people. You got to know how to be able to be courteous. So communication is a really big part of the job, and you want to communicate because if you're out there getting a load or picking up a load and you don't communicate, they can leave you out there for hours and hours at a time while you're waiting to pick up that load or unload. So communication is a big factor of the play when dealing with customers. You don't want to be out there waiting 5, 6, 7, 8 hours waiting on a load or getting unloaded. You will get paid at some. I do understand some companies will pay you for your downtime for sitting, but it's not like you're going to be normally getting paid for running that load. So it's going to be very minimum. So that's another thing to remember is communication is a big factor in CDL truck driving. Okay. So I want you guys to keep that in mind. Are you guys ready to drive? Because I'm ready to drive. Those are just some key things to remember when becoming a CDL truck driver. And if you want to become a CDL truck driver, some things to think about. Alright. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next session. Bye-bye.
It sound right, boy. It sound right, boy.